Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something I've learned over the course of my life. Happiness doesn't just fall in your lap. You've got to push yourself to be happy every single day. If you sit around waiting for circumstances to make you happy, you'll be waiting forever. Life will throw you storms, disappointments, setbacks, but joy is a choice. Every morning when you wake up, you got to decide, today, I'm going to find my peace. Today, I'm going to focus on what's right instead of what's wrong. That's the starting point of a fulfilled life. Ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I want you to really understand is this. Happiness is not something that just drops out of the sky and lands in your lap. It isn't some magical gift that one day appears fully formed because the conditions are perfect. If you sit around waiting for the right people, the right paycheck, the right circumstances, you're going to be waiting a long, long time. Happiness is a decision, a choice, and most importantly, a daily effort. Every single morning when you open your eyes, you got to push yourself to be happy. You got to say, no matter what comes my way today, no matter who disappoints me, no matter what challenge stands in front of me, I'm not going to let it steal my joy. That's a powerful choice, and it's one that will transform your life. Now, I know what some people are thinking. Steve, how am I supposed to push myself to be happy when life is hard, when I've got bills to pay, when relationships are falling apart, when my health isn't where I want it to be? And I'll tell you the truth. Life is always going to hand you something to worry about. You think you're going to reach a point where everything is smooth and then you'll finally get to be happy? Nah, that's not how it works. Because even if you solve one problem, another one will show up. That's just life. But happiness isn't about a life with no problems. It's about choosing joy in the middle of the problems. That's why I say you've got to push yourself, because it doesn't come naturally when things are tough. It comes because you decide, I'm going to rise above my circumstances and I'm going to find something good today. And let me tell you something else. Happiness doesn't just protect your mind, it protects your body. Scientists will tell you stress and negativity wear you down physically. When you spend your days complaining, angry, bitter, waiting on the world to be perfect before you smile, you're shortening your own life. But when you wake up and make that conscious choice to be happy, you're giving yourself energy. You walk taller, you breathe easier, and suddenly opportunities start to look brighter. The world looks different when you're looking at it with joy. I met people who had almost nothing, but they carried a smile like it was their treasure. And I met folks with more money than they could ever spend, but they couldn't find a single reason to be happy. That right there tells you happiness has nothing to do with what you have and everything to do with what you decide. It's an inside job. You push yourself to see the blessing in waking up, the blessing in having a chance to try again, the blessing in being able to breathe, walk, laugh, and dream. And when you start noticing those blessings, you realize that happiness isn't hiding. It's been there all along. You just had to open your eyes and push yourself to recognize it. So when I say push yourself, I mean it literally. Some mornings you won't feel like smiling. Some days the weight of life will feel too heavy. But that's when you got to push a little harder. Happiness isn't for the lazy. It takes energy, it takes intention. It takes fighting back against the thoughts that try to drag you down. You push yourself out of bed. You push yourself to speak life instead of death. You push yourself to see life instead of darkness. And the more you practice that push, the stronger you get. Before long, happiness stops feeling like a fight. It starts feeling like your natural state. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest reasons people struggle with happiness is because they let negativity dictate their entire mood. Somebody says something wrong to them in the morning, and the rest of their day is ruined. Somebody cuts them off in traffic and suddenly they're angry for hours. A coworker doesn't show them respect and they carry that bitterness home, letting it poison their evening with their family. Now tell me, why would you give another person that much control over your happiness? Why would you hand over your peace like it's nothing when it's actually the most valuable thing you have? You see, the problem isn't what happens to you, it's how you choose to respond to what happens to you. That's where happiness lives, in your response, in your perspective. Life is not designed to be perfect. You can wait for perfection all you want, but you'll never see it. There will always be somebody who doesn't like you, a plan that doesn't work out, a storm that shows up when you least expect it. If you let every imperfection dictate your joy, you'll never find it. But if you shift your perspective, suddenly even a small blessing can feel like a miracle. You start to notice that a sunrise, a laugh from a child, a kind word from a stranger, or even just the fact that you made it through another day is enough reason to be thankful. That's why I say happiness is not about perfection. It's about perspective. You could be surrounded by chaos and still find calm if your perspective is right. Think about it like this. Two people can go through the exact same situation and come out with completely different attitudes. One person focuses only on the pain, the inconvenience, the loss, and they walk away bitter and broken. The other person focuses on what they learned, what strength they gained, what door might have opened because another one closed, and they walk away stronger, wiser, and still smiling. Same situation, different perspective. That shows you happiness is not determined by circumstances, but by the way you choose to look at those circumstances. Negativity is always going to try to sneak into your life. It comes through the news, through social media, through gossip, through the frustrations of everyday living. You can't escape negativity, but you can refuse to let it set up shop in your mind. The moment you allow one negative thought to sit too long, it invites another, and then another, and before you know it, your whole outlook is dark. But when you catch it early and you say, no, I'm not going to let this control me, you protect your joy. Happiness is like a garden. You've got to guard it against weeds. Perspective is the tool that helps you do that. Now, I'll be real with you. Shifting perspective isn't always easy. When you've been hurt, when you've been overlooked, when life has been unfair, it takes effort to look for something good. But that's exactly why I said happiness is a push. You've got to push yourself to see the light when it would be easier to sit in the dark. You've got to remind yourself that no matter how bad it looks, there's still something to be grateful for. There's still something to learn. There's still something that proves you're alive and capable of joy. So don't hand your happiness over to negativity. Don't let one bad moment decide your whole day. Don't give another person the power to ruin what you work hard to build. Step back, change your lens, and choose to see the blessing instead of the curse. When you live with that perspective, you stop waiting for perfection and you start living with peace. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something important. Pushing yourself to be happy is not something that happens by accident. It takes discipline. It takes effort. It takes waking up every single day and saying to yourself, no matter what I see, no matter how I feel, no matter what the world throws at me, I'm going to keep my joy. Because the easy thing to do is complain. The easy thing to do is wake up and immediately focus on what's wrong, what's missing, what's broken. Complaining doesn't take any energy. It just flows naturally out of negativity. But to smile in the middle of difficulty, to keep a positive spirit when life is hitting you hard, that takes real strength. That's why happiness is not for the weak. It's for the disciplined. It's for the people who train their mind the way athletes train their bodies. And the greatest way to train yourself to be happy is through gratitude. Gratitude is the foundation that happiness is built on. If you don't learn to be grateful, you will never be happy, no matter how much you have, no matter how far you go. because gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present. It reminds you that even though things may not be perfect, you are still blessed. And when you begin your day with gratitude, you've already won. You start to see life differently. Instead of dreading the challenges, you begin appreciating the opportunities. Instead of saying, I have to, you start saying, I get to. You don't have to go to work. You get to go to work. You don't have to take care of your family. You get to care for people you love. Gratitude flips the script, and once the script is flipped, happiness has a chance to grow. I know from experience that when you wake up with gratitude, it lightens the load on your heart. Think about it. If you start your morning saying, thank you, God, for another day. Thank you for breath in my body. Thank you for my eyes to see, my legs to walk, my mind to think, my heart to love. You've already given yourself a reason to be happy before the day even begins. That's discipline. That's training yourself to push beyond whatever negativity is waiting for you, because life is going to test you. It always does. But gratitude keeps you anchored. Gratitude says, yes, I see the storm, but I also see the sunshine behind it. Yes, I see the problem, but I also see the blessing that's bigger than the problem. And here's the truth. Gratitude and happiness walk hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. People who spend their lives chasing happiness without gratitude will always come up empty, because no matter what they achieve, it will never be enough. The money won't be enough, the applause won't be enough, the possessions won't be enough, because their heart is set on what's missing. But when you live in gratitude, even the small things feel like a gift. A simple meal feels like a feast. A hug feels like a treasure. A quiet evening feels like luxury. Gratitude magnifies joy, and joy makes life rich. So yes, happiness requires discipline. It requires you to train your mind, train your heart, and push yourself every single day not to fall into the trap of negativity. And the way you build that discipline is through the practice of gratitude. It's like working out a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger it becomes. And the stronger your gratitude, the easier it is to choose happiness no matter what life throws at you. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest truths I've learned in my life is that real happiness doesn't just come from what you receive, it comes from what you give. Now, don't get me wrong. It feels good to receive blessings. It feels good when you get that raise, when somebody surprises you with kindness, when life gives you something you've been waiting for. But let me tell you something even greater. The deepest joy comes when you become the blessing. When you use your energy, your words, your actions to lift somebody else up, that's when your own happiness grows in ways you never imagined. Joy has this strange and beautiful quality. It multiplies when it's shared. I've seen people chase happiness by chasing possessions. They buy more clothes, bigger houses, faster cars, and for a moment, yes, they feel good, but that feeling fades quickly, and then they need more. That's because happiness built only on receiving is shallow. It doesn't last. But when you shift your focus from what can I get to what can I give, your life takes on a new dimension. Suddenly, your happiness is no longer tied to what you own. It's tied to the lives you touch. And that kind of happiness doesn't fade, because giving creates a ripple effect that keeps coming back to you. Think about the times in your life when you felt most alive, most connected, most joyful. I guarantee many of those moments had something to do with giving. Maybe you helped a friend through a tough time. Maybe you encouraged someone who was ready to quit. Maybe you gave your time, your ear, or just your smile to somebody who needed it. You walked away from that moment feeling lighter, stronger, happier, not because you gained something, but because you gave something. That's how God designed us. We were never meant to live just for ourselves. Our joy is tied to how we impact others. And here's the beauty of giving. It doesn't have to be big to be powerful. Some people think giving only means money or grand gestures, but that's not the case. a kind word, a listening ear, a helping hand, even just being present with someone who feels invisible, that's giving too. Those small acts can turn someone's whole day around, and in doing so, they turn your day around as well. Happiness has a way of circling back to the giver. That's why the scripture says it is more blessed to give than to receive, because the joy of giving plants seeds that grow in both the person who receives and the one who gave. But let me tell you this, giving doesn't just bless others, it heals you. When you're feeling low, when you're stuck in your own problems, when negativity is pulling you down, one of the fastest ways to turn things around is to shift your focus outward. Go find somebody to encourage. Go find a need you can meet. Go share some love where love is missing. Suddenly your own burdens don't feel as heavy. You begin to realize that you're part of something bigger, and that realization fills you with purpose. Happiness is not found in isolation. It's found in connection. And giving is what creates those connections. So, if you want to push yourself to be happy every day, make giving a part of your daily life. Make it a habit to spread encouragement, to spread kindness, to spread love wherever you go. Watch how your heart changes when you become intentional about lifting others up. Because when you give joy, you don't lose anything. You gain more than you ever expected. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest mistakes people make is confusing happiness with success. Too many of us walk around thinking, when I get that car, when I buy that house, when I land that dream job, when my bank account finally looks the way I want it to, then I'll be happy. But let me tell you the truth. If you can't be happy with what you have right now, you won't magically become happy when you have more. Because happiness is not something that comes from possessions or achievements. It comes from within. Success might impress people, but happiness will bless your soul. And the two don't always go hand in hand. I've seen people who reached the top of their careers, made millions of dollars, got the recognition they thought they wanted, and still felt empty inside. Why? Because they thought success was going to heal something inside of them that only joy and gratitude can heal. You can have all the success in the world and still be miserable if you haven't learned how to carry peace within yourself. On the other hand, I've met folks who didn't have much at all in terms of money or fame, but they radiated happiness because they knew how to enjoy the little things. They laughed easily, they loved deeply, and they found beauty in the simple blessings of everyday life. That's the difference between chasing success and choosing happiness. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing bad about wanting to be successful. Ambition is good. Goals are good. We should all strive to do our best, to build something meaningful, to chase dreams that stretch us. But the trap is when you postpone your happiness until you achieve those dreams. That's when you lose years of your life waiting for some future event to give you permission to smile. Life isn't just about the destination, it's about the journey. If you're not learning to enjoy the process, you're robbing yourself of joy that's available right now. Every step you take, every lesson you learn, every little victory along the way deserves celebration. Too often, we spend so much time looking at how far we still have to go that we forget to look back at how far we've already come. You may not be where you want to be, but you're not where you used to be either. That progress, that growth, that's something to be happy about. When you tie your joy only to the finish line, you miss the happiness that comes from each mile you've already run. That's why I say happiness is about perspective. And perspective lets you celebrate even in the middle of the race. Here's something else you got to remember. Success can be taken away, but happiness rooted inside you cannot. You can lose a job, money can vanish, circumstances can change overnight. If your entire sense of joy is wrapped up in those things, then your happiness disappears when they do. But if your joy is built on gratitude, love, peace, and faith, then no matter what shifts on the outside, you can still carry light on the inside. That's why it's dangerous to equate success with happiness, because success is temporary, but true joy is eternal. So the real secret is learning to enjoy where you are even as you work toward where you want to be. It's about smiling at your progress, thanking God for today, appreciating the people you have, and finding joy in the small moments that make life beautiful. Because happiness is not waiting for you at the finish line. It's walking right beside you every single step of the way, if you're willing to see it. Ladies and gentlemen, happiness is not a one-time decision you make and then never have to think about again. It's not like flipping a switch and suddenly living the rest of your life in perfect joy. No, happiness is a daily practice, something you choose again and again, sometimes with ease, sometimes with effort, and sometimes with a fight. There will be days when choosing happiness feels natural, when everything seems to fall into place and joy flows easily. But there will also be days when life feels heavy, when disappointment knocks on your door, when challenges stack up higher than your strength. And those are the days when happiness requires you to push harder, when it becomes a discipline and a fight worth fighting. You've got to understand that the world isn't going to hand you happiness on a silver platter. Circumstances won't always cooperate with your dreams. People won't always treat you the way you want to be treated. Unexpected storms will come. But happiness is not about avoiding those storms. It's about learning to dance in the rain. It's about refusing to let outside conditions dictate your inside peace. And that takes intentionality. Every morning when you wake up, you've got to set your heart and your mind. You've got to say, today, I'm going to choose joy. Today, I'm going to protect my peace. Today, no matter what comes, I will not let it take my smile. That decision sets the tone, but the practice throughout the day keeps it alive. See, happiness is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. If you choose happiness consistently, it becomes easy to find even when life gets tough. But if you neglect it, if you give in to negativity day after day, then unhappiness becomes your default. That's why practice is so important. It's not about being fake or pretending life is perfect. It's about training your perspective, strengthening your gratitude, and guarding your joy like the treasure it is. Because happiness isn't cheap. It's valuable. And what's valuable must be protected. There are people, circumstances, and even your own thoughts that will try to rob you of your happiness. That's why you've got to be vigilant. Don't hand over your peace to every situation that comes your way. Don't let one bad moment ruin 24 hours of your life. Don't give someone else the keys to your joy. Protect it. Guard it. When negative thoughts creep in, replace them with gratitude. When discouragement whispers that you're not enough, remind yourself of everything you've already overcome. When fear tries to steal your future, focus on the blessings of the present. This is the daily practice of happiness. It's an active choice, not a passive one. And here's something powerful. When you practice happiness daily, you don't just change your own life. You influence the people around you. Your joy becomes contagious. Your peace becomes a light in dark places. Your decision to smile in the middle of trials becomes inspiration for someone else who is struggling. In choosing happiness again and again, you create a ripple effect that extends far beyond your own life. You never know who's watching, who's listening, who's drawing strength from the way you keep your joy alive. So understand this, happiness isn't fragile, but it is precious. It takes practice, it takes protection, and some days it takes a real fight, but it's worth it. Because when you push yourself to be happy every single day, you build a life that no storm can shake, no setback can destroy, and no person can take away. And that kind of happiness, the kind rooted deep inside, becomes the most powerful gift you can ever give yourself and the world.